I just remember driving home to my husband, and I have 2 small children, and thinking that about the commentary that we kind of have as parents, as I'm sure you guys feel, that you think about how you want to explain things to children and how you want to impress upon them faith and positivity in a world where we can be surrounded by negativity very often. So everything happens for a reason. And it sort of started to almost fester with me that, well, I want to create a reason. I don't want to tell those empty words to my children. I want to create some reason for them.
Well, it was a relief to read it so that now I know what Mom was doing that whole time. Because I often wondered, well, where did she go and what is she thinking? And why can't she remember these things? So now she was on an adventure. And that's a lot easier to take, and certainly it's been a lot of years, but it's a lot easier to breathe about it.
Because she's a woman.
Yeah, true, right?
And that's why they brought her in.
We're like, shit, this is a mess. We need a woman in here.
Well, that's sort of the feeling I got the whole time I was reading. I was like, of course they went with the woman to resolve all conflicts. Why is this not surprising?
These are just natural inclinations that we have, even if you don't remember, these things. But because I still needed her to struggle in some way, and so hers was an emotional struggle, so I felt like these characters who still had their memories but were superhuman and had these advanced characteristics, they still needed vulnerability, because to me that vulnerability is what as a human I relate to, and I need those flaws to exist in characters. Otherwise, as a reader, I don't find it interesting. I just wanted to create this scenario that I believe my grandmother is in, and that really she has Alzheimer's for this purpose to save the world. And even though we can't see it, I believe that it's happening.
But I did think that, for Claire, because it's like she struggled so much, kind of in those first chapters of why do you want me to do this, but still feeling like she was tethered, purgatory or whatever they would describe it. But she was so overwhelmed, right? She felt like it was her entire responsibility to save humankind. I mean, she kind of mentions that. It's somehow she feels like it's just me.
Just hearing you say that word trapped, that was kind of the precipice for me, as I felt like I was sitting at the table with my grandmother and I could watch her drift away. And I wanted to be able to release her from that feeling.
Right.
And so that kind of was the story, was if I can't do it here, then this is where I'm sending her. I need to send her. So I've been researching for the next book that the youngest person who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's is 28.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And they misdiagnose people who are younger because it's not uncommon. I mean, it's not usual, but it's not uncommon for people that young, but that they misdiagnose it as depression. And a lot of times after giving birth, that women tend to have it and they think that it's postpartum and just part of the process. Characters, well, why do we have Alzheimer's? Why do we have cancer? These 2 horrific diseases. Let's bring them together and make it so that it's really about almost creating superheroes, that my grandparents had to go through this for this reason, to save the world. Every superhero has their weakness, so to me they had to have something. They had to have some defeatable characteristic.
I couldn't help but think of just our state of affairs right now, and just this whole question of, politics.
So you see the characters experiencing 9/11 and school shootings and military shootings and things that I took from actual real life events, and I tried to connect those, as these are sort of the heroes that come about that we don't hear about. And then as I was researching those big events, I found that the news sort of capitalizes on these negative stories, but there's a lot of really great stories that we never hear anything about, that are really positive, that show you the best of what humanity is.
But
That says a lot, though, that I thought a lot about our current state of affairs and the election while reading this.
I wanted to not focus so much on the 75 people that didn't do anything, but about that one person who did, but I really wanted to bring voice to what I believe I've learned from my students over these 15 years is that they're the answer. They know how to live with one another. They know how to maintain peace amongst differences. And I think I want them to have that message of what if, that endless possibility and that hopeful feeling, because it's hard to maintain that hopefulness sometimes.
I saw my life in a stranger's face, and it was mine. I had one way ticket to this, where all the demons